right? Good morning, everybody. Today, I'm really privileged because I've met a young man who's called Matthias. He's from somewhere across the world. So through a challenge that I took, I would never have met him. And I think my message to you today is listen to what we're going to say today and take something from today. Because I think for every opportunity that we meet in our lives, there is an opportunity to learn and to grow. And Matthias today is going to talk to us today about mental fitness. And when he first said that, I have to admit, I think I had some resistance. I put my hands up and went, nope. Because when he said fitness, I thought he was talking about exercise and things in more physical fitness. But when we got talking a little bit more, he spoke about how important it is to honor and work with our mental fitness in our mind. And before I say anything else, I want to say a massive thank you to you, Matthias, and good morning.
Good morning, Dawn. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
And thank you for introducing me as a young man.
Oh, thank you. You are very young to me.
You made my day.
Thank you. So, Matthias, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I am, as you mentioned, I'm not living in the UK. I live in Greece, actually. I'm originally born in Austria. Before I ventured off on a 15-year career, mainly I was based in Asia. I was at the time doing triathlons. I was doing Ironmans, which is that sport where you swim and bike and run for a very long time, sometimes 10, 12 hours. Wow. That was my first time that I got into the whole matter of psychology. At the time it was sports psychology. It was in a way also mental fitness, though I wasn't so much aware of it at the time. I did an Ironman coaching certification. And what I was really mainly interested in was that part where it came down to psychology. And I can elaborate a bit more later if you want.
Okay.
Anyway, a couple of years forward, I was starting to coach. I did coaching courses. I was helping people in their lives. And I came across this topic of mental fitness, and it connected me back to my career in triathlon. But now I had something in my hands that I could also use with my clients in their day-to-day lives, in work, in relationships, in conflict management, and so on and so forth. So I dig deeper, and I did a certification on this. And that's why nowadays I focus purely or mainly on mental fitness coaching. It helps me in what I do in my life. And I saw just really amazing results in the people that I work with. And that's why, I'm grateful for you allowing me to be here with you to get my message out to the world, because I think the more people that come here and hear about it, the better of a world we're going to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you, Matthias. For me, mental fitness means, I've investigated and looked at what you're doing. I did take a little time to check it out. As it means to me about honoring and studying your mindset. Is that, what does mental fitness mean to you?
At the end of the day, what it really means is that it's your ability to shift between negative thought patterns or emotions. It comes more down to emotions, to be honest. So our mind is at work. So there's the mind work, like the rational mind that we know when we think. Yeah. And then, as you know, there is the emotional side. Okay. So sometimes even if we think I'm happy, but I feel not happy, there's a discrepancy between the two, right? I can think as much as I want that I'm happy, but if my emotional side doesn't come along with it, I'm not happy as much as I can tell myself in my mind. So, and I think the reason why it's called fitness, because you need to practice, you need to train it, that not only your mind is telling you like what we consider positive thinking, if your emotional side doesn't come along, you can think as much positive as you want, but it doesn't work. So what you need to train is to actually bring your emotional side in a positive state of mind. And there was a lot of research done in neuroscience where scientists figured out that there are actually two different parts in our brain responsible for negative emotions and for positive emotions. Yeah. And why it's not called mental fitness is because you need to like practice and train, not training as in running, but you can practice to move from that side of your brain. And it's like there's a neuroplasticity. There's actually a real change happening within your brain, that you react to your life, to environment, instead of with negative emotions, with positive ones. And that's why it's called mental fitness. And that's why I find it so powerful. And I found it powerful for myself to really move into that area where I feel good. It's really like I feel the sensation of positivity within me, instead of just trying to think positive, but without having the emotional side as well.
Okay, no, that's really interesting, because it's kind of give me a slightly different concept of what I was thinking. Can I just share what I was, well, my understanding? Okay,
Sure.
Because for me, so I work with about flower remedies, and Dr. Bach says when there's a void between your thinking and who you should be, is when dis-ease sets in. So what I've learned is basically every thought we has triggers a part of the brain, so say the amygdala, which is the chemical reaction space, to trigger a neurological response, which then dictates how we feel.
Okay.
So is that a similar concept to what you're thinking?
Yeah, I think what we absolutely what we are doing is we are trying to interrupt the thought process, what you just mentioned, where you said when there's a void and you have a thought. So we're trying to really tap into that we don't, maybe, I'm not sure if it, what we're trying to become aware of our thought processes, and through our sensations, through like our senses of touch, of like eyesight, of hearing, through those senses, we're trying to stop our thoughts. So we call this PQ wrapping, which is like positive intelligence wrapping. It's like, it's what we like, it's basically an exercise, but very short, simple exercises, which I've demonstrated them before, but I can do it again if you want. And while doing that, we're basically calming down our mind. We recognize that thought that we just had. And then there are a couple of practices where we can shift our thoughts into like in our different brain patterns or brain sites, which allow us then to really think in a different way, like positive, but also bring the emotional side along with it.
Okay, excellent.
And I can actually demonstrate it later. So it might be a bit of to what you mentioned before about, thought and when there's a void, and then there's a certain emotional reaction to it. We're trying to tap into all of that to make it conscious and in a way play with it. Okay,
excellent. Okay. So I'm listening and I'm thinking, oh, how can I kind of bring this into my life? So for me, when so if I got angry about something, because I know if I'm having a happy thought, I'm probably going to have a happy day. So I feel happy with myself. Okay. I think, for me, I would tend to take things, I'd be honest with myself and say, this is how I feel today, and I'd write it down. So is that part of the process that you work with? So this is how I feel. And then I'd look at, is this helping me or is this not helping? Is that the concept we're looking for?
Yeah, let me explain at one example.
Okay.
And we spoke about this before we actually started the podcast, that Dawn actually asked me when we have this conversation, when she raises a pen, it means that I should stop talking, right? So in the guidelines that I received from you, right, when I saw this note, my initial reaction to this was not a very good one. Like I said, okay, like I don't feel good when somebody raises a pen. It's like a bit of a headmaster, like I'm back in school, somebody raises a pen, or like my mother, doing this. And I'm like, so my initial thought, also my emotional reaction wasn't a good one, a positive. It was actually a negative one, right?
Okay.
Now, how can I shift into, with this particular incident, into a positive one? The first step was to recognize how I react to it. So I recognized that I didn't feel good about this. And which is step number one. Step number two is to empathize this is one of what we call the powers, the positive mind powers, to empathize with you in that case. And say, like, for Dawn, this is one of the ways Dawn kind of does the podcasts, right? So where does it come from Dawn? It comes from like Dawn with her podcast wants to impact people out there in a positive way, to have a positive shift in people's lives. That's why Dawn does her coaching, does her work with the remedies. That's why Dawn does the podcast. And now slowly I was shifting. Like this initially a negative reaction started to shift into a positivity, right? I said, and for Dawn, it is important that in the podcast, there's a certain level like of me talking and Dawn talking, Dawn asking questions, Dawn referring back to me. And it is Dawn's way of showing me that she also wants to say something and contribute by raising her pen. And through that kind of loop that I just made, I felt good. I had no objection anymore to you raising your pen. Right? So
I'm loving it.
Okay, so I went a level deeper
yes.
to understand where does Dawn come from. And because of that, I shifted my brain patterns.
Okay.
And I felt it. I felt good, you know?
Yeah, excellent. I like that. And actually, it's interesting you chose that. Thank you. I'm going to rewrite my notes when I'm finished. Okay. Because I didn't actually think I was going to come on here to be analysed today, but I'm going to go with it because I think there's a lot of people out there can relate to what I've been through. So first of all, I will be honest with you, Matthias, I've actually spent a lot of my life feeling as I've been put down by people in authority. And most of those have been men. So I think earlier on, someone encouraged me when I was working with some confidence building exercises, if I want something, to put my hand up. Or, you know, to let someone know, look, actually, I want to speak as well. If you are saying this to me and this have an impact on my feelings, excuse me, I would like you to stop there because I want to feed back. And I think I've taken that into the work what I'm doing here. So actually a really valid point, actually, that it triggered something in you, because I wouldn't normally write such intricate guidelines. It's just probably because you're a man, I see you as an authority in what you're doing. Maybe it's triggered something in me, which was quite interesting. Wow.
This is the very interesting part in the work we do in general. Yes. I feel as we go through life, we face challenges.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to how do we react to those challenges.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And what mental fitness does, it allows you to recognize your reaction to challenges in your life. And it gives you a choice. How can I react to this challenge? Whilst most of us are on autopilot. Like we don't really know what we're doing all day long. We just go through life. And when something happens, unfortunately, often we react to it in a negative way.
Yeah.
You know, there's a traffic jam, the car next to you, it's, you know, you blame the car next to you, but the car is driving too slow, it's driving too fast, it's turning in the wrong way, or like there's so many reasons why people get upset with other people, with circumstances. And also a big thing is we get upset with ourselves. So we're starting to understand, how do we judge ourselves? And how do we show up in the world? How do we judge our circumstances, the world we live in? And how do we judge others? So this is like at the core, these are the 3 core pillars of mental fitness. And once you understand all of that, you can intercept your thought patterns, and you can start working with them.
Okay. Okay. So I was going to ask how you feel about this. I think maybe that's something to come back to another day. But I actually think, so right from the basics, we go right to the basics, because I didn't realize I was going to peel away my own layers today. I could be honest. Okay, but it's okay. I'm open because, you know, I'm honest with myself now, and I'm honest with other people, because I can't pretend to be something I'm not. Okay. Where would you start?
It's a huge step, by the way.
Is that who you know? Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I need to hear that now, Matthias. Thank you very much. Okay, so just skipping that page and that page of my notes. So if we're looking at going right back to the basics, right, and someone's listening to this, so they'd say they're a young mum who sitting at home on her own, her head is full of all this stuff what's going on with her children, she can't feed her children. Where would you start? Where does mental fitness come into your life? How can you bring that in to every day?
I think a lot of it is awareness. Like,
yeah.
Why am I in a situation where I am in? Like, and how do I evaluate this situation? Now,
yeah.
I think the way you just presented this, probably this person, let's say being by herself, struggling financially, struggling with the children she's got, probably is struggling as well, with mentally, probably a lot of her thought patterns are not very positive because she struggles in life in general.
Yeah.
Now, we can't fix this from today to tomorrow. Probably, you're not going to have, all the money you want and the perfect husband and all of this. But what you can work on is to recognize the good things in your life. There are probably a lot of people out there, they would like to have children, but they don't. Now, you have 1, 2, 3 beautiful children. So how much do you appreciate that in your life? Right? Yeah. And it's with everything, in general, I'm not a big fan of comparison, compare yourself to others. It's more that I recognize that I am alive. I think simply the fact that this body, which is a very complex machine, is working. Yeah. You probably know once when you're sick or you get an injury. At the moment, I have a little injury on my foot, which I got last week from exercising, like physical exercise, not mental exercise, right? And when you have these little injuries, you actually know how much like my body assists me in living a good, prosperous life. And when then I have an injury, I see the impact it has. So just simply understanding that my lungs are working, my heart is pumping, no matter what, when I'm asleep, it's working, my lungs are working when I'm asleep. So that I am a living being on this planet Earth, that I get this chance to be here. If you really recognize that, hopefully, can't promise it, but hopefully there's a bit of positivity starting to come inside of you out. Some people, they do journaling, they write down things, gratitude journals, things that are good in their life.
Yeah. Yeah.
What now the question is, if I was talking to this woman who you mentioned before, single and 3 kids and struggling financially, like it really can, every day can make a difference in your life. Yeah. But what you need to show up in life. You need to show up to your best abilities, because every one of us has unique talents. So I would maybe explore a bit the talents that are with this woman. You're certainly talented. I would tell a woman, you have 3 children. There are so many things that go along. You're probably mentally very fit already, because raising 3 children by yourself, despite the struggle, makes you mentally very, very strong. And probably, there's a lot of opportunities out there. I know quite a few women actually who were in a similar situation. They started writing books about their life. Okay, you need like a pen, maybe you need like a computer or something where you can write. Yeah. And as you do this, you start to recognize your talents, what you're really good at. Yeah. And as you do that, an important part in this process is also, as you start doing this, you're going away from the negative influences in your life, from the things that don't work out, because you focus on the good things in your life. Yeah. Which means every step into this direction is a step away from the other direction. Right? So you're actually making a double step. Yeah. And then you just need to have a certain bit of energy, to go out there and tell people your story. Tell them about your story. like you do in what you do, I do in what I do.
Yeah.
And tell them. And maybe a lot of people are not interested. A lot of people are not ready to hear your story. But as you keep on going, there will be people, like we know, like no is an acronym for next one.
Yeah.
Go out there and tell the story, right? So if somebody tells you no, it means just go on to the next one. And there will be people there who's going to help you, because there are people that are in the same situation you were some time ago, and they are there to help you. You just need to find them. But as you become more open to all of this, and now we get into, synchronicity, it's a bit of a spiritual topic as well, but I 100% believe in it. People will come into your life that will help you. But the first step needs to come from you. There, no one is going to come to rescue you. The first step must be from you. You must recognize your talents, and you need to go out there and tell people about it.
Excellent. Yeah, that makes absolute sense, actually. You're telling my story there. Thank you. It's like, I can see the angle. Yeah, I can see how that's, I think, having been through what I've been through in my life, and people put me down and abuse and all that stuff, when I started working with other people, I started to recognize like a little me inside of them. And so I became passionate, wanting to help them so that they didn't have to keep going through that painful life. So, so we are come from the same place, aren't we? Okay. Okay. And I can see how having this, okay.
Can I add something else to this?
Go on then, go for it.
To the topic.
Yep.
I've also been in my life in very dark places. Like, I lost financially, like in my business, things didn't always go well. So I've also seen dark places in my life.
Yeah.
What is important, I think, unless we sometimes end up in a dark place, we stop seeing the light. We stop seeing yin yang. Everything is like togetherness, right?
Yes.
When you are in a dark place, the good thing about it is there's very little you can lose. Sometimes, I mean, you might still be able to, but let's say you don't have a lot of money, you only can go in a way, like way up. Because some people, they have money and then they lose everything, right? And then they're devastated. So if you're in a position where you have very little, there's also very little you can lose. So you can put it all on the table. You can go all risk in. You can go everything you can put in. Because a lot of people, they don't want to go all risk because they have something. And when you have something, you don't want to lose it. So you become attached to that. And then you don't dare anymore because you're afraid of losing what you have. And if you've lost something in your life, and particularly when you've lost everything, then you're really open to going full in and full out. And some of the most successful people on this planet, if you look into their story, at some point in their life, they had nothing. They lost everything. And that's when they really became as powerful as they are today.
Well, and there's a thought in itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. So what I'm going to ask in a little while is if you will do one of these simple exercises that we can give a little guidelines to somebody if they're sitting in a place right now and they really do not know where to start. I think you described a small exercise, didn't you, with the hands the other day, which I thought was really profound.
Yeah. So what we can do is we work with the sensation, basically. So I can demonstrate, if that's okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Like what I'm going to do now, so to everyone watching, I'm just going to rub my thumb and index finger together.
Yeah.
Right. And then I'm going to slide the fingers of one hand against the fingers and palm of the other hand, like this. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's do this, but let's close our eyes. We're going to reduce a bit the speed in all of this. Okay, just take a deep breath in. And then take a deep breath out. And now take a deep breath in again. And then let it out again. You can also make some noise. And now, as I demonstrated before, touch your thumb and your index finger together. And as you do that, start to feel the ridges of your fingertips, the skin. Really focus on that sensation of your two fingers sliding and rubbing each other. Notice, is your skin a bit moist or is it very dry? But really feel those ridges of your fingertips. And now, slowly start to slide the fingers of one hand against the finger and palm of the other hand. Slowly go up. And then slowly go down. And feel the sensation inside of your body, of your fingertips sliding down the fingers and the palm of the other hand. Now take a deep breath in. And do another big sigh. As you breathe out. And then slowly open your eyes again.
Thank you. That was lovely. Very
How do
chilled. I felt very aware, Matthias, that I was going quicker than you, so that I think that's part of maybe my little bit nervousness today.
Yeah.
Slowing down really did make a difference, actually. And then sensations, I could feel that a tingling sensation going through my body. So thank you.
You're welcome. So this is one of a PQ wrap. There are many different ones. We also do, for example, we slide with our fingertips from the forehead, our face down, like we feel the eyelids, we feel the nose, we feel the entire face area. What you can also do, you listen, like when you close your eyes and you listen to the noise that's farthest away from where you are. And then you listen to the noise that's closest to where you are. And you can listen to your own breath. This focus on your feeling, what happens actually is that your mind can't focus on thought and feeling at the same time. Right? So while we were doing this, if you really feel the sensation of your fingertips sliding down your hands, there are no thoughts happening in your brain. What could potentially happen is that as I do this, I lose my sensation and my mind wanders somewhere.
Yeah.
That can happen. That's why it's called fitness, because we need to practice it.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
And I sometimes do this, right? And I do it for 2 minutes and my thoughts start wandering off. And as I come back, as I catch myself that I'm actually thinking, oh, okay, let's go back and feel the sensation. And more advanced training is recognizing your breath. So this is where we go into meditation.
Yeah.
In meditation, you're only using your breath, like your lungs coming in and out. But it's really advanced because a lot of people are unable yet to meditate, or it's really difficult for them because their thoughts, their mind is always working. So there are a couple of easier exercises to start off with before at a later stage. We also start working with our breath, and we start working with body sensations.
Okay.
Like we start recognizing, for example, like when I do this with my neck, there might be some tightness in my neck. So we start to recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
And we start to recognize, is there a connection between my neck being tight to maybe a thought that I carry inside of me? But that's like on the advanced stages of like black belt level, we call it.
Mm. Wow, that's really intriguing. Okay, I want to know more now. Okay. And we will come to the end, because I understand you're going to do some workshops, aren't you?
Yeah.
But, can we come back to that in a moment, Matthias? Okay.
Sure.
So that's kind of covering most of the population that I know. Okay.
Yeah.
But I understand you're a very successful coach, and you've worked with mental wellness. I've got to say wellness and fitness for a long while. So what about the other end of the spectrum? Because some of the people that come to us are already what I'd call successful. How would this help them? So maybe they need to reset their goals, or they've come to a point where their business is stuck. How would you guide them to start working with themselves?
In general, the principles apply to everyone in a way the same.
Yeah.
We start to recognize our thought patterns.
Okay.
And then there is a saboteur. Okay, we haven't really spoken about this yet, but in mental fitness, we have the like on the negative emotion side, we actually classify those emotions into 10 different types. We call them saboteurs.
Yes.
And then on the positive ones, there are 5 powers, we call them. We call them sage powers. So sage as in wise powers that allow us to shift our emotional state. So anyone who would come to me, we would first analyze those saboteurs. Like, how do we show up in life? What is impacting us in our daily lives? I'll give you one example. One of those saboteurs is a controller, we call it. We all have a controller to some degree, right? So the controller basically tells me that unless things go the way I want them to go, I don't feel good. Right?
Yeah,
so
makes sense.
Let's say I don't know, I'm walking on a pedestrian walk and somebody's coming towards me. Now, I want to go straight. The other person also wants to go straight. So our controller, in a way, tells us if we move out of the lane, we lose control and we don't feel good about this. It's a simple example. But let's say in professional work, let's say some people are really adamant on being on time.
Yeah.
And if people are late, they lose a bit control, because in their control environment, people have to be on time. So as people are late, a certain frustration maybe comes up within you, or anxiety, and that's your controller telling you it's not okay if somebody else is late.
Okay.
Another one is like the judge. The judge is where we judge ourselves. Let's say one of the most common ways we judge ourselves is we believe we are not successful enough. So no matter what we do in life, we keep on belittling ourselves. Okay. And it's a lot of us hardly sit down and say, I'm just okay with what I'm doing in my life. I'm happy with what I'm doing in my life. A lot of us want to keep on every time. We need to do more and more and more and more. And so anyone who would come to me, and not matter at what stage in their life they are, if you're a successful entrepreneur, we would see, okay, are you like, normally when people come to us, they're probably not entirely, they don't feel joy, happiness in their lives, right? So we would try to find out, why is that? Like, let's say you are a successful entrepreneur, you have money, you have everything in life that you want, but you still don't feel happy. You don't feel joy in what you do. Let's talk about it. Why is that? So we would analyze these saboteurs. There's an assessment for that. And then we would start to work to shift. What we say is whenever we have a negative thought or a negative emotion, we are in saboteur mode. And through the PQ reps, like what we did before, right? We're moving into the sage mind. What I explained before about the pen, my initial reaction, I was in a way hijacked. I was in saboteur mind because let's say I didn't like it. So I was in saboteur. Then I recognized that. I did my PQ reps. And then I used one of the powers, one of the 5 powers, which is the activate power, and also the empathize power, to think, where does dawn come from? Mm-hmm. And this is how it basically works, right? The whole process. And it really is incredible in no matter what stage of life you're in, is trying to understand how do you show up in your life. A lot of our thought patterns are just in our subconscious. It's an accumulation of our life experience, our childhood, our adolescence, our first part, when we have our first job, work, whatever we did in life. So there are different numbers on that, but I think like between 80 to 90% of what we do every day is happening in our subconscious. So, which basically means we are not actively aware of it. Like our mind is ruminating all the time about something, right? And it gives us like a base level, like a base emotional state. And we're trying to tap into that. First of all, we're trying to understand it. And then based on that, we work with it.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah, I'm processing so much today. I didn't realize I was comfort therapy. I'm laying myself out on the line here, aren't I? And that's okay, because I think with everything we've been through recently with the pandemic and everything, there's a lot of people walking around under this dark cloud and they don't understand what they're experiencing. And I really get that. Every day we've got people coming to us at the centre where we work who are really struggling with just managing the everyday things. And I think what you're saying is that we peel that back, be honest with ourselves, put the stuff out on the table and say, you can turn this around. And it's all very natural as well, isn't it? Which is what I'm really drawn to, because everything I do is natural. Wow. This is very eye-opening, actually.
I mean, most of us, we know, this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Of course, you want to have a certain base level. You want to have, a bed to sleep in, like a roof over your head. You want to have, in a way, food, so you can nourish yourself, and a bit of money, in a way, to live your life. But then once you reach a certain level, there are very affluent people, very rich people that are not happy. They're the same. It's the same, like psychologically, it's the same process, like somebody who is really not well off. Yes. The really important thing is to recognize I just feel, and it's not easy, but when you really feel gratitude for just being alive, for being here right now, in this very moment. And as maybe after we finish our call, as I walk out of my door, I have 100 possibilities how I can impact myself, how I impact other people's lives.
Yes.
And that can have a trigger effect throughout the world. Like you might have heard about this analogy that a butterfly can cause a storm. Like I think they're actually proven that scientifically, that somewhere in the world, when a butterfly flies his wings, the air turbulence, as it grows, it does cause in another part of the planet a tornado or a storm somewhere.
Wow, didn't know that.
So so like these little tiny things. I love, and that I'm also a sailor. I love to spend time at sea. And there's this one great metaphor, which I really love, which is like a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah.
And the metaphor in a way works that like we all people, we are boats. Right? And as I put one drop of positivity, like water, into the sea, everyone is being lifted up. Right? So how can I, no matter what life position I am in today, put a drop of positivity, which is going to lift myself up and other people around me. And then we get into the topic of karma. It will eventually work out for you.
I'm so excited now. I'm like, okay, when's the next session, please, Matthias? Okay. But I think because we did say, like, I'm trying to keep it within 45 minutes. Thank you so much for sharing that, because it's given me insight in some things I kind of understand already, but it's also taken it deeper into how people can help themselves naturally, which I think is amazing. To say that, you know, every thought we're having has got to have an impact on not only ourselves, but those around us. And that is quite amazing, isn't it?
Can I finish with one more story? I think it's a very
powerful
story.
Of course you can.
Also,
absolutely.
like, highlight this, what this is all about. So there's a story about a shoemaker who goes into a land where the people don't wear any shoes. Two shoemakers. So they travel there. The first shoemaker sent a letter back to his wife and say, darling, please don't come. I'm going to come back because nobody in this country wears shoes. The second shoemaker writes a letter to his wife and says, darling, come as quick as possible. This is heaven here. Nobody wears shoes here.
Perfect. Love it. Yeah. That is the power of the mind. Yeah. And you get what you think about. Wow. So on that note, so I've got a lot to think about now. And I've got another client in a moment, so that's interesting. No doubt I'll end up telling her some of the things you've said. We'll have to link you two up, because I think you two would get on really great. You really would.
Yeah. Okay.
So thank you, Matthias, for sharing. I think it would be nice. Have you got some details? Maybe would you like to put your details out here and say, for anyone's listening today, how could they get in touch with you?
Sure, I can. Do you want me to put it in the chat, or?
Should we say that maybe you'll talk it through now, and when we put the post up there, because we're going to put this on YouTube.
Okay, sure.
So we can then share it as well.
Sure. Yes. My website is www.matthiasberger.net, and Matthias Berger is written as MATTHIASBERGER.net. So www.matthiasberger.net. That's my website. My email is hello@matthiasberger.net. Yep. And you can also call me or WhatsApp me at my phone number is an Austrian number. The country code is 43. Then 670-7739-050.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
So plus 43 670-7739-050.
Okay, I've actually got that written down. So I will, what I'll do when we put this out there, I'll put all your details with that. I think I'd just like to touch on before we went, because you said earlier that you've got a questionnaire that would help people just to start working on themselves. Where would we find that, Matthias?
So there's another website, which is called www.positiveintelligence.com.
Yeah.
And you can also go directly by putting in the assessment.positiveintelligence.com.
Okay.
Okay. And, or you can also do saboteurs.positiveintelligence.com. And then you can do the saboteur assessment.
Yep.
And yeah.
Okay. But I think actually, maybe if you put that in writing to me, I can pass it on when people come to us. Okay. But thank you so much. You've really opened my mind today. And I'm excited now to go want to share this message. Absolutely. Do you think we could take this to another stage where we could maybe come back and invite some people in to talk with us or to ask you questions?
Sure, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you very much for your time today and for enlightening me and for peeling away some of my layers. I feel a bit vulnerable now. I was like, okay, so I'm right there on the line. But it's okay. No, I know. I think, for every experience, every person that you meet, there is an opportunity for everybody to grow. And what you're sharing today that's really valuable. Yeah, I can see how this could be really helpful. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Matthias. And I look forward to next time. Thank you. Thanks so much, love. Thank you.